let me invite the panelists to the stage. My colleague Nishal will moderate the session. And let me please invite to the stage Mr. Mohammed Tek from Meta, Dennis from Econex, Huda Al-Ghabishi from Zain Oman International, and Marco from DKX.
Good morning, everybody. Sabah Al-Khair. I'm very excited to be back in MENOG and thrilled to be back at Oman. It's my great pleasure to welcome you to our panel this morning, which is Peering and Interconnection Trends in the Middle East. It's a continuing panel. For those of you that have been regulars at MENOG, we generally do this often. We talk about the state of interconnectivity, what's missing and what's needed to get it to the next level. And I think for those of us that have been here for a while, this is my 10th MENOG, it's interesting to see the changes, and if you're sticking around for some of the presentations a little later, there's some really great statistics. My name is Nishal Gobadan. I'm an internet analyst at Packet Clearinghouse. We're an international treaty organization that helps to support the core of the internet. I'm going to pass the mic on to the panelists to introduce themselves in a second, but I thought I'd just give you a little bit of an idea of what we'd want to talk about this morning. And don't worry, Marco, I'm not going to speak for much more than this. The Middle East has an undeniable role to play in interconnectivity for just one simple reason, and that's the geography. Any map of the world that you look at has the Middle East literally in the middle of the world, right? But over time, we haven't been able to see the Middle East recognize its role as some kind of interconnection point between the East, the West, and the South. I come from South Africa, and it irks me that so much of my traffic passes this part of the world simply to get to other regions where it could. And what I'm hoping to do today is to provoke, and I'll say that intentionally, provoke the panelists into trying to expose some of the things that are missing, and hopefully you as the audience as well. I encourage you to come up to the microphone and ask them the difficult questions. As a reminder, we have microphones in the aisles, not because we want to be difficult, but we actually want to identify you so that people can come and talk to you and engage you later. So please feel free to go to the mic, identify yourself, who you are, who you're representing, or no hats if you're representing nobody, and ask those questions. We're going to split the panel today into four themes, effectively, and that's the current state of peering in the Middle East, so that should be really quick, but I think it's important to contextualize it for first-time or new attendees to MENOG. And then I'd like to move on to the impact of infrastructure investments. There's lots of investments happening in the Middle East, and it's important we try to understand whether those investments are being used to the best of their abilities. I'd like to talk a little, or have the panelists talk a little about evolving trends and things that are changing the landscape for interconnectivity and peering. And then, of course, the fun part of this is the challenges, or perhaps better said, the opportunities that exist for the Middle East moving into the future. Our guests bring between themselves a tremendous amount of experience and very diverse perspectives on building infrastructure and interconnectivity in the Middle East. And when they introduce themselves, I'm sure you'll get to that. So I encourage again all of you to come to the microphone and be bold, as they say. And that's it. Let's start the conversation. So I'm going to pass the mic to Huda and ask her to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. Welcome in your second home, Oman. This is Huda Al-Ghabishi. I'm head of data and connectivity in Zain Oman International, where I'm responsible of sales, procurement, submarine investment as well. Thank you.
I think this one works, yes. Welcome, everybody. My name is Denis Dincic. I am a technical specialist at Equinix, one of the biggest global data center providers. For us, connectivity is key. I'm very happy to be here on the stage to brainstorm about what we can do in Middle East to bring it to the next level. I'm very happy to sit with my peers here to brainstorm about the opportunities that we have in the Middle East.
Yeah, hello, my name is Marco. I'm from DKX. I'm quite enthusiastic about bringing peering to this region since a couple of years. I had the honor to develop the UA exchange in Dubai, and now I have the honor to develop a few more exchanges in this region. And I'm happy to be here to discuss, and I hope I can bring in some aspects which could make us think and make this whole infrastructure or the whole ecosystem in the Middle East bring it to the next level.
So thank you for joining Mehmet here from Meta. So I work for the Edge Network team, so mainly leading the Edge Network strategy for Middle East, North Africa, including Turkey and Caucasus region. And it's mainly our POPs, peering nodes, and as well as our caching, and the kind of like planning, road mapping for this region for a while. And the same actually ideas and thinking here with Marco. Hopefully we can try to improve and develop further the internet and peering ecosystem in the region. Thank you again.
Okay, thank you very much. So let's get into it. Following up from the last presentation, one of the criticisms we generally hear about the Middle East is that despite years of investment, of infrastructure development, there's still a significant amount of bandwidth or content or interconnectivity that still gets fed from via international transit for this region. Now, we've just seen really good statistics about Oman, and we have a regional expert here to talk about Oman. But is this true for the rest of the region? And if it's so, what are the systemic issues that are preventing the region from achieving greater levels of traffic localization? I don't want to put any of you on, I can put you on the spot, but if you want to volunteer.
Yeah. I think this can take an hour now. I think we have seen the statistics up there, but obviously as we run an internet exchange in Dubai for a while, and we run internet exchange in Europe, or internet exchanges in Europe, and one in Singapore, I can even confirm what we have seen, because I don't know a single operator from the Middle East having more connectivity to the UA exchange in Dubai, which would be the closest exchange in the region, than to Europe. So basically everybody is buying more capacity from us in Europe than in the region. And so this is just confirming the statistics, what we have seen. And the main reason, really the first and main reason I always hear when I'm discussing with the operators about it is price. It is cheaper for everybody to go to Europe or to Singapore, so all the way to Marseille or even to Frankfurt will be cheaper than just going from, for instance, from Qatar to UAE, or from Kuwait to UAE. So, well, and if they do the mathematics, obviously people will take the cheaper price, which is Europe. And that's one of the many reasons, but this is for sure the main reason. It's pure economics, what we are talking here. Yeah, this is one thing we have to solve.
If I will talk from network perspectivity, I believe the main challenge is we have a fragmentation market here, where there is disparted network infrastructure. For example, if we want to have a something to connect all the Middle East, something like Europe, Europe, then the challenge what we are facing right now is, for example, the compatibility of the network in Oman is different than in UAE, is different than in Kuwait. Legacy of the network, investment, huge investment cost of building and maintaining the network. This is all plays a very critical keys or factors in high cost of the network. So what, as Zain Omantel International, what we are doing now under the licensee of all our OPCOs is we are trying to make the region as a hub where all the international submarine cables are landing in Oman. Almost more than 20 submarine cable now is landing in Oman. And then expanding all those submarine cables towards the Middle East region via a very scalable network, ducted network. So the performance of the network will be seamless, similar performance from submarine perspective all the way to anywhere in the Middle East. So I believe this is a very important challenge that we are facing in the region. As well as another challenge that we are facing is the regulatory differences between countries. So there is government control where government and regulatory can play a vital role in speeding up the development of digital transformation or slowing down the digital transformation. So wherever there is flexibility, understanding, like what happened, for example, here in Oman, when we established Equinix MC1, there was a bit a challenge in convincing the government and the regulatory, where this is something not unique in the region. So in order to provide all the flexibilities, all the permits, everything, all the facilitation, this really needs an input or a big support from the government and the regulation.
I think what is very important is that, so the name Equinix means equal, neutral internet exchanges. Equinix would not exist without network providers, without internet exchanges. And this is why the company has been doing so well for many, many, many years. So we really believe in open peering, what I call the unlocking the network play. And we have a lot of intel on what other markets have been doing across the globe, where they have started in a very regulated fashion. It was very locked, it was very pricey, it was very challenging to bring up the peering community in that specific locations. But I always say, once you unlock the network layer, there are a lot of businesses that are living on top of those networks. You will bring a lot of business in, a lot of AI projects today, a lot of content providers. So it's not only the network layer that we need to look at, but once you unlock that, and I think Singapore is maybe one of the best examples that I can give, especially in the past when it was very slow moving, but once they started to change their way of doing networks in Singapore, it's now the biggest connectivity hub in APAC. So a lot of businesses, a lot of content, a lot of caching nodes are being pushed towards Singapore. So there is much to gain when you look at how to do networks in specific locations. And I fully understand that if in MENA completely you have different regulations, different countries, different challenges in each of these countries, but we somehow need to solve those challenges to bring MENA to the next level of the digital business that we can bring here, because there is a huge potential in MENA today.
Okay, so I'm hearing three common themes. Sorry, Mehmet, we'll get to you in a second. And this is cost, which I don't understand, and that's quite interesting to me because I'm an economics student, so this is something I'd love to explore. I'm hearing compatibility of networks, and I'm hearing regulation. But I want to go to the cost thing, because when we talk about costs, I know for those of you that were here for day zero and you were sitting through the interconnection class, you would have heard us say a very simple equation, that speed times distance is cost. Now, it's my second trip here, so I'm not so au fait with the region as others, but I'm willing to bet that the cost of fiber from here to the UAE has got to be less than the cost of fiber from here to Frankfurt, because the distance is less. How can it cost more?
So probably I'm not the best one to answer this, but what I see as a content perspective. So first of all, especially local ISPs, incumbents, they would like to protect their own market. So they don't want to open up the market, so like they would like to keep their revenues up. So that's one reason. So when it comes to the local connectivity or regional connectivity, so always they try to keep these prices high. Of course, there's the cost of build as well, but this is maybe something to carriers to address and answer. But also in some particular countries, what we see is on top of these connectivity prices, the capacity prices, there are some fees that ISPs need to pay on top of it, just for licensing, just for international access, which is usually by the governments or by the authorities, like for example Iraq or Kuwait, that these are the countries that we see it, and this is just for the international access. You need to pay this amount of money plus the capacity by the carrier. So in total, it becomes much more expensive than connecting to Singapore or Marseille or Frankfurt. So that's how I see it from my side.
Well, I'm also not doing calculation of backhaul, of course. And one thing, when we talk about cost, I also have to say, okay, when we talk about the European level of cost, of course we love it as consumers of it, but maybe for the operators it's not always healthy. So, but same time in the Middle East we see a different situation of unhealthy in terms of traffic can't stay in the region because of the cost. And I think it's, on one hand, I hear a lot of times from the operators, yeah, it's the distance, where I always say, okay, but the distance Riyadh to UAE, to Dubai, for instance, I think it's 1,000 kilometers. The distance from Marseille to Frankfurt is 1,000 kilometers. Don't tell me about distance. That's, yeah, that's not valid, right? That's not working. But what, of course, we know, regulation. I mean, you have different regulation systems, and you have things like royalty fees. You have all these kind of fees. You know, it's not only the MOC fee in Kuwait or Iraq. It's also the hidden taxes the operators have to pay to the governments in the different countries. So I think what has to be rethought is, especially when you think about the GCC, let's stay in the GCC for now, they should think about more, how can we make it more convenient to cross borders, to be between the countries, to have a real wholesale regulation. Let's call it a wholesale regulation. Protect your home market, okay, that's fine. But we're in wholesales, and when we talk internet exchanges, we're in wholesale. So we need maybe a wholesale regulation which makes it cheaper for everybody to interconnect between the countries in order to make it attractive to come here and build this ecosystem. And when I say ecosystem, well, I'm building the exchange in UAE, but you know what? We have to talk about GCC, not about the UAE. We have to talk about this as a region, like we talk in Europe about Europe as a region, right? And not about Frankfurt, Amsterdam, or links, because in the end of the day, everybody benefits.
No, absolutely. I think you're spot on. The things that I have been seeing, and I have been supporting a lot of enterprises, local ones, but also international ones that are willing to do business in MENA generally. And I have seen businesses going lost because of connectivity prices. They say this is just way too much for us. We cannot create a business case for us to land in MENA. What I strongly believe is that if we are looking at unlocking that network layer for these type of, not only enterprises, but you have the content providers, you have the many different verticals really that we are hitting, is that if you look at the pricing, you can look at the quantity, so you will attract more businesses into MENA. You will create these ecosystems that are going to interconnect with each other, and you will push the traffic to a higher level. So if you want to become hubs, and we have seen in the past that countries want to become the content hub or the network hub, now we're talking about the AI hubs. The network layer is the foundation of any business that is landing in MENA. So if the network layer is being solved, you will attract much more businesses into MENA. And in that case, you don't need to say no to the customer, but you will always have a solution, and we can provide you the connectivity that you need.
So let's talk about those hubs for a second, right? What's going to drive those builds? Everybody wants to be the regional hub, for whatever version of regional hub that means. What's missing today to get the current environment into those systems? I'm hearing you say costs, costs, costs. And costs all seem to point to some sort of non-harmonized regulations. Is that the only thing that we're looking at? What else is missing from to get those regional hubs working? Huda?
Okay. Just to elaborate on the cost aspect, here in the region, the cost of building and maintaining a terrestrial network or submarine network, for example, we are investing almost 185 million for the terrestrial network to connect all the GCC countries. This can be, this is a huge investment, definitely. But the main key factor that will eliminate or reduce the cost is to have a strategic partnership. For example, we all know that not only in Oman, but also in UAE and Saudi Arabia, they are looking for the same terrestrial connectivity. So why we don't have a strategic partnership and we co-invest in such investment or building infrastructure. So in case of only Zain Omantel or Zain and Omantel investing 185 million, then we can share all this investment between each other, and eventually the cost will be reduced. from investment perspective, and this will be, we will be able to attract the CDNs and the cloud providers as well.
So indeed, like there's a huge desire of being a hub, each country here, and sometimes each operator within a country. So like, there are some countries like there are 2 operators, and both of them would like to be the hub, regional hub. So like, and this is how I see like a huge missed opportunity for the region, especially for GCC. So because of lack of collaboration here, what like Huda just said, so like a huge opportunity for bringing more content, more traffic, regionalize it. It is missed. Like I always think like about Europe, for example. Like Europe is like a major market. The prices are, I mean, very well established. A lot of carriers to data centers. But not all the European cities are hub, right? So if I ask you, tell me the hubs in Europe, so you would say Frankfurt, London, Amsterdam, Marseille, maybe Paris and Milan. That's it, right? Prague is not a hub, or like Vienna. So if you go to some other kinds, not all of them. Of course, maybe not like a 100% accurate comparison, but it's not possible to have hubs everywhere, like multiple hubs in especially I'm talking about the GCC. So how to kind of avoid this? Again, the collaboration between countries, collaboration between these big carriers, operators in the region. So this is also leading to kind of less in-region resiliency, let's say. So what's happening now? So like there's a content available in Oman, there's a content available in the UAE, there's a content available in Saudi, but like Saudi doesn't want to connect the content in the UAE, and UAE doesn't want to connect the content in Oman, and Oman doesn't want to connect the content in Saudi. Because of all of their desires of being hub. No, Oman is the hub, UAE is the hub, Saudi is the hub. No, actually. But instead, if they interconnect with each other, if they actually lower the prices or collaborate on this, so what is going to happen? If a content there's a failure in Saudi, let's say, what's happening now? Like if a failure in Oman, that all traffic goes back to Asia, to Singapore mainly, or Europe, of course, Marseille, Frankfurt, Amsterdam. But if they collaborate, they would also establish like a huge resiliency within the region, which is also important, especially we are going to next phase of AI, metaverse stuff. So that time, resiliency and reliability will become more critical. So I hope that thing changes, but let's see.
I can't agree more, and to add some aspects here. So first of all, it's not only that people don't want to go in some cases, and we are in a country where we know if you're an operator in Oman and you want to peer in the GCC, your regulator will tell you it is the limited bandwidth what you can have. So your regulator basically tells you go to Europe, right? In general, I mean, for whatever reason. But the point is, it is not very healthy because it means, well, I accept that my latency is very high. My cost, I mean, we heard it's cheaper to go to Europe and Singapore, so we should not talk about cost, but it is not healthy for the ecosystem. And the second aspect is, when we say hub, what does a hub mean? And what is the potential for hubs in the GCC? Now let's again look at the GCC. We have the concept of lawful interception, of filtering and all this kind of stuff, which means hubs always happen outside of this, right? It can only happen with the networks who can peer international, because what does a hub mean? A hub means a network from Bahrain can peer in Oman. But which networks, or a network from Saudi? How many networks from Saudi can peer in Oman? It's exactly 5, right? It's not 30, it's not 40, it's 5, because these are the DSPs who have the filter implemented. So which means, if you do your math, you will see all the GCC has 30, 40 carriers, I would say more 30 or more, or even less, who have even the traffic where it makes sense. So how many hubs you want to create when you have in total 30 carriers? So we have to rethink this whole thing. The good news about the GCC is, well, you have some very nice markets around you, which are not also famous for having hubs. I mean, we think about the other side of the Gulf, right? We think about Pakistan. We think about, I mean, don't think about India. They have solved their thing themselves, I can tell you. And nobody in India cares about anybody from outside because there are 1.4 billion people. It's a different story, it's a different ballgame, but we think about Africa. Middle East is in the middle of it, but you do nothing out of it. Why? Because it's too expensive. It is, and too complicated in a lot of cases, and everybody wants to be the hub. I'm the hub. I will not connect you to the other country because I am the hub, you know? So the main word is collaboration. It's a very bold word in the Middle East. I understand this because, well, everybody was living very well with his situation. But if we think about the broader picture, people have to start to collaborate. So it's about regulation, making it available, making it seamless all over the GCC, that it is clear, sync the regulation, but it's also about collaboration between the operators, and then redefine what I mean with a hub, because if I can serve my home needs, well, I already have a very good internet exchange. I give you one example. I think Kuwait IX is great. It's a great exchange. Why? It's keeping the local traffic of the local networks local. Khalas, that's it. Nothing more needed. It's a great internet exchange. It's a great example. Not everybody needs to be an exchange with 300 networks. It's not needed. That's also, I think, a very clear statement. Be clear what you want to achieve and then work on this. I think this is the answer to the hub situation.
So I came here hoping to get some insight into how and quite selfishly I admit, my internet experience from Johannesburg is going to be improved into the future by connecting some hub. But you all seem very pessimistic about this. This lack of harmonized regulation, the costs, this doesn't seem to be pointing to some kind of rosy future. Before you comment, I want to invite folks, because I'm told we're losing 15 minutes. I want to invite questions from the audience so that it's not just us talking amongst ourselves. I see one. Yeah.
I'm Jan from 6Connect. My question is, the bilateral agreements between the major ISPs and the content providers, the big ones, how is this undermining the growth of, on one hand, the IXPs in the region, the new IXPs, and also the services that are sort of like a startups. If somebody wants to be a next Facebook or next Google, aren't these bilateral agreements just prohibiting the growth of all these things that are making the internet a little bit better? Thank you.
Okay. Any takers? I would think maybe Marco and Meta. Oh.
Okay, I don't want to become the next Nishal and take all the speaking time. But if I understand you right, is how does the, basically you're talking about P&I when you say the commercial agreements between OTT and as a content network and the operator, how it is undermining the IXPs. Yes, as an IXP, very open. We don't, if you grow a new exchange and you want to become visible, it is not very healthy for you, right? I mean, this is very clear. If you don't see the traffic on the exchange, you're not visible, and it is definitely something which it's not helpful to grow. But at the same time, it's very natural. I mean, this is the things which are happening. I mean, we know Amazon, for instance, once on the stage, they said they do only 4% of their overall global traffic on internet exchanges. The rest is on P&Is, on caching, and so on. I mean, this is a fact, and we as exchange, we have to live with it, and we have to handle it. I mean, it's in the end of the day, it's a natural thing. So I either see it good or bad. So it's fine. But by the way, Nishal, I'm not pessimistic. I'm optimistic about the future because we have reached a lot. I'm just saying, what would be the next logical step? How we can go further, you know? How we can got more mature in the whole region. This is my aspect here, because I'm very positive about what happened. This whole scenario here is 100% different than it used to be 10 years ago, trust me.
I want to comment on this. The situation in the region is optimistic because there is a lot of collaboration between government, like what is happening between, for example, Oman and KSA. where we are building our Oman KSA corridors. This will help a lot in facilitating the digital transformation in the region and increasing the interconnection as well. There is a lot of similar initiative that happened between KSA and Jordan, KSA and Egypt. So things are moving in a faster way, let's say.
Is this sort of development something that you're also seeing from a data center perspective as well, Dennis?
I mean, from a data center perspective, definitely. Equinix will always be moving into locations where we see the potential of growth on networks.
If I can pause you for a second,
Sure.
just so you can answer further. One of the criticisms is that there aren't a large number of carrier-neutral data centers in the region. There are lots of data centers. The operators have their own data centers, and that's not helping with this infrastructure sharing thing that we've been talking about. Is that a perceived issue that needs to change?
I think this is the key question. I think it's a good thing because we have established in the region some, because Equinix will always move into regions if the model for Equinix is right, the operational model, the financial model, and all these stuff. We have a whole team behind it that is looking at each of the locations, and many countries have reached out to us and saying, you know, can we build data centers together? Can we you know, upgrade the connectivity in the region? Can you operate it for us? But for us, the key point is connectivity. We will never move into a location where we have only one carrier doing the business in the data center. We always focus on the carrier neutrality, which is key for us. And this is also one of the reasons why we have been doing a lot of business with Metno, with other companies across the globe, because they are looking for these highways, the network connectivity points where they can have the flexibility of connecting to different providers. So carrier neutrality is key to Equinix, and we will always again be moving to locations where we believe that the network density will grow in the future.
Okay.
MC1 is definitely an example, and one of the reasons why we have built a data center there. Salalah is also on the map, which we believe will be another connectivity point for a lot of cable systems to land in the peninsula here. So again, for us, Oman is a very, very strategic location, and we are looking at growth. We are talking to a lot of carriers, to a lot of content providers, willing to have a lot of caching nodes there, trying to get traction on the internet exchanges and bring Oman again to a next level. So definitely, yes.
So we have two questions at the microphone. Let's get them quickly, and then we can decide who wants to answer them. Remco, and then Taha.
Hi, Remco from. Oh, let's pick asteroid today. Good. So, question, and this is because I've been involved in interconnection in the Middle East for 12 years ago. So at the infancy of it, one of the things that I don't see changing actually is my feeling is it's actually not improving at all. Is there's this notion. Both on the side of the carriers and ISPs and on the side of content, that they're in some sort of position that they can negotiate themselves into market dominance, corner the market, which fundamentally doesn't help if you're trying to set something up which is fundamentally in a collaborative in nature, i.e. the internet. And I think that particular piece of mindset that you must corner the market, you must dominate a market, is fundamental to every country in the GCC area wanting to be the hub of the GCC, whether that makes sense from an engineering perspective or not. And they all do it because they want to dominate. And I think the collaborative aspect of this, and as hard as that is in a region like the Middle East, I think is very fundamental to actually being able to grow an ecosystem. Because if you don't collaborate, you're going to be tromboning traffic to Singapore and Europe for all eternity.
Okay, thank you, Remco. I think his comment is important. Is there a question, Taha?
Yeah, I'd like actually to add to what he said. The dominance is is in the nature of business. So I think all the businesses will continue to go that direction. But what I wanted to say is that it's the role of the regulation mostly, and I wanted to ask why there is no one. It was yesterday in the workshop we had some people from regulations. There is something that's called strategic location, and these carrier neutral locations such as MC1 in here in Muscat and in Salalah, the data center that you're opening, they should have special treatment when it comes to the backhauling and to the reaching. That will make it easier for both the content providers, ISPs, and smaller ISPs to reach to those ecosystems and make internet accessible for everybody. That's my point of view, and I wanted to ask if there is anybody in the TRA looking into these things. Yeah.
Thank you, Taha. I truly believe that this region is a very critical hub. And as I said, strategic partnership between government, between ISPs is essential. So I agree, MC1 and SN1 is a very successful, let's say, successful project for Amatel and Equinix. And we saw a lot of interest from CDNs and cloud provider on this. We tried to make a lot of cooperation or to initiate a lot of cooperation with other ISPs in UAE, KSA as well. Our friends from KSA are here as well. So we agreed with Equinix, for example, for a reduced prices to connect to MC1 and SN1, for example. And there is a special rate as well to connect to the content provider. So we are working in disrupting the market in a way that we want to make this region, not only Oman, because I don't believe that if Oman become only a hub, then, how to say, in Arabic we say one hand doesn't clap. So we need to be, as the GCC, we all should be focused on one vision to be that this region should be the hub. There was another initiative that we did with our colleague from DO, for example, to have a seamless connectivity with Data MENA and DX1, where we reduced the prices of connectivity to 50%. Definitely there is an investment on those terrestrial networks, so you need to go to reduce your prices to a level where there is a return on investment. So we are working on it, Taha, don't worry.
Yeah, maybe to address Remco, when we started 12 years ago, meanwhile, it was really very, very difficult to even explain somebody why you want to have a local peering and why you don't build this internet exchange in this particular provider network. I mean, the understanding of collaboration was simply not there. What happened in the meanwhile is it happened a lot, but I'm still saying we have to do a lot, and we can do this much, much better, because I don't think we are there. We still have a far way to go, but what happened is people did something very funny. A lot of operators started their own internet exchange, and this was maybe the best thing that could happen to this region, because all of a sudden they understood, oh, I need to collaborate. I mean, JEDIX, to name one of them, was great in order to change the mindset of Saudi Telecom to understand, oh, it is not entirely a bad idea to keep traffic in the region, because if I want other operators to peer on my exchange in Jeddah, well, maybe I should peer also in exchanges in the region. You can't imagine the shift of mindset. I mean, funny enough, they don't have the mindset in Saudi Arabia itself, as far as I understand. If I look at the Salam people over there, they're already shaking their heads, yes. But you know, it's coming. And the biggest thing we have seen 2 years ago was maybe this Union of Exchange thing in Dubai. I mean, think about it, you named it, 2 operators in the same country, each of them having an exchange, an internet exchange, where UA Exchange, you know, it's operated by us, but owned by DO. You know, Smart Hub X, owned by Etisalat. Well, these 2 exchanges interconnected. So you have a very cheap way to interconnect between those exchanges. This was a total shift that happened in the UAE already. So I think we're getting there, but there are a lot of things to do. And the next thing, when we talk about neutral data centers, well, we need more neutral data centers, but we don't only need neutral data centers. We need this idea of and concept of distributed internet exchange in one city. Meaning, if you have a DRT and an Equinix in a city, or any other Iron Mountain, whatever data center, which is neutral, and then you don't need two exchanges in that city, one in one data center and the other in the other data center. No, you need a distributed exchange setup, meaning no matter which data center you are, you can connect to the internet exchange. This must be the next big step in the GCC Middle East.
You mentioned that, Jan from 6Connect, I'm sorry. You mentioned that the ISPs started creating IXPs. How is that neutral? How does that actually work? Then do we then need a neutral IXP to connect the non-neutral IXPs?
It is not neutral, full stop. But the point is, but this is a longer answer. If you look at the licensing and regulations, that's the only way to create internet exchanges in this region, by the way. So, and the only way to have it neutral is that they behave neutral. And funny enough, and this is also from my experience, well, most of them do in a very nice way, to be frank. So I can tell you, at least from the UAE experience, long time, I mean, before the UNNF exchange, Smart Hub IX and UA exchange were not neutral to each other, but at least to everybody else they were neutral. Now they're also neutral to each other. Etisalat is peering on the UA exchange, and same is due on the Smart Hub IX, which was a bold step in the UAE. I can tell you, this was a huge step. So we're getting there. But from the licensing model, well, it has to be almost an operator. There are some exceptions, but this is too long to answer now. Okay.
But then we are turning IXPs into transit, basically.
No.
No?
Not really.
Okay. Thank you.
So I think we're running out of time, and there's still a few more things that I'd like us to discuss. I want to explore this domination aspect a little bit more. Is that really because of the way that networks have been built here traditionally, where there's a consistent lack of competition? I mean, in my country, we have over 400 internet service providers, but here on average, you have just a few per country. Is that part of the problem? I mean, would that help you in the data center world? Would that help you with the content world? Wouldn't that see better adoption? Wouldn't that see more wider ability to peer in other regions?
In my opinion, it is both, actually. So it's like traditional way of doing business. It's kind of mentality, as Jean said. It's also lack of competition as well, and that's what Marco mentioned. So number of networks carry ISPs, ASNs in all region. It is except Iraq and Turkey. Except Iraq and Turkey, especially if you are talking about GCC here, it's probably less than 30, right? Like in Saudi, it is only 5. In Bahrain, 3. Kuwait, 3. So UAE, 2. Oman, I think 4. So and that's it. So it's kind of lack of competition as well. And how many of those ISPs or operators could provide connectivity regionally or internationally? It's also very less number. So not all of those networks can provide you international access connectivity or even regional access. I think that is the both of the cases.
I mean, I agree. I think the dominance comes definitely from a traditional way of thinking, I believe. Obviously, I think every business wants to look at, how I can monetize my business as much as I can to make it interesting for us. I don't agree, I think, with the wording that it's fully locked and that there is no progress. I think it's slowly moving into the right directions. I think there are a lot of partnerships being established. I think there are a lot of these discussions that I can help of changing the mindset as well in the region. What I believe is that we need to quantify what it means if we change the way of doing network business. What does it mean for the business in country? What does it mean for MENA in general? And once we quantify that, then I think also the government will be looking at providing networking services differently to international businesses or even local businesses to create these hubs. And I think the key comment was as well that, what is a hub? We talk a lot about hubs, and we have seen these hubs being created in our data centers globally. What we see is that it's all about interconnection. Why does a business want to go into a specific location? The reason is because it can interconnect with all the partners in that specific location, whether it's a network provider, whether it's a cloud provider, whether it's their businesses. Obviously, the enterprise market needs to be in such a level that it can do a lot of business there locally. So a hub, I think, is built on different layers, not only the networking part, but if you look at AI hub, if you look at cloud hubs, I mean, there are a lot of reasons why you want to be in a specific location, but the key thing is still the networking. So dominance is not a good thing. I think it's slowly moving into the right direction, and that partnerships are crucial to get to the next stage.
Is that mindset change happening fast enough, though? Here's an example, right? There's a cable now that goes from South Africa to Australia. I'm South African. I think, wow, that's amazing. Finally, lower latency access to Australia. And then I thought about it for a bit, and I thought the economics of that don't really make sense until you realize that it's really not about connecting South Africa and Australia. It's about finding an alternate path around, the Suez. And this is probably an experiment, right? The folks that are doing it are rich enough to consider it an experiment. But if that works, that changes things. And then the geographic benefit that you're getting here is, it's lost.
No, absolutely. I mean, we are getting these questions every day. And again, it's not only about the networking layer. Of course, you want to monetize it, and you want to make your business successful, and you want to do that for the right price. But what is going to be built on top of those networks? Why do you need to have the low latency route between South Africa and Australia? Why do you need to have a low latency route from Portugal into South America? Because there will be businesses that are going to deploy in Portugal or that are going to deploy in South Africa and make use of that connection to elevate their business to a higher level. So it's not only the networking part, it's really what you build on top of that, and that is what I believe creates the hub in those specific locations.
Yes?
I don't agree with you that the opportunity is lost here. The opportunity is emerging. We need to, when we compare, we need to compare apple to apple. If we compare the region to Europe, when we started the internet and the data centers in Europe, it's been like a very long time. There is a lot of factors that affecting the GCC or the digital transformation in GCC. The number of population, you cannot compare the number of population of GCC with Europe and India or Asia. The cost of living. There is a lot of factors that really might hinder or a bit slow down the transformation, but we are on the right path, I believe.
So to be clear, I didn't say it's lost. I said if you don't move fast enough, the market is going to find alternatives, and that's literally what we're seeing in here. But let's move on. I think we need to wrap up, so I have two final questions for you. There are probably quite a few first-time MENOG participants here. As a first-time MENOG participant whose mind was blown by your conversation, what's your message to them? Not market.
Sorry. Well, yeah, a few things come through my mind. I mean, first of all, okay, two. So first of all, don't compare with Europe or something. I mean, it's not always learn from it. I think see what are the good examples, take them, and then do the best out of it. I think it's not, don't want to become the next Europe. You don't want to become the next US. You don't want to become the next Singapore. You want to become the GCC which you want to become. And and take the best examples and see who is your competition in it and how you can compete with it. And the competition is not in the GCC itself, it is outside. It's not in the Middle East itself. It has to be outside, and you have to see the whole market. And the other thing which is always in my mind in the last couple of months is I'm thinking about energy. And GCC or the Middle East is great in energy, right? So now think about what will be the future of energy. It might be electric, and you could be also great in electric. We know that power is very cheap in this region, right? And how you export this in future, it can be data. But in order to become data, you need neutral data centers, you need interconnection between those data centers, and you need interconnection in the region and outside of the region. So you need to do the homework. And then this can be a very interesting future for the whole GCC and a whole different story. And we think about AI computing, power hungry. Why not happening here? It can happen here, but then you can export something virtual. But you have to make the base work for this, and this should be the driver. So then, and if everybody works on the same driver, I think a lot of things in collaboration are much easier. That would be my message in this case.
So for the, you said like the first comers, the people that are attending MENOG for the first time. So I would say like in the past, it is MENOG mostly for the like some workshops and technical kind of knowledge raising. But for a couple of last couple of years, we have been also doing this peering stuff here as well, kind of a Middle East peering forum, which was also missing in the region, right? So like there's like a European peering forum, which is huge, global peering forum, which is huge, an Asian peering forum, Africa peering forum. But that's actually what we are trying to do here as discussing about the peering. But like more importantly, I would like to emphasize that we are not trying to promote an IX or a carrier or a data center or a content provider here. What we are trying to do to develop the internet ecosystem, the peering ecosystem, further in the region. As what you said, Nishal. So instead of losing this opportunity, let's make it happen. So and I would suggest them to work on these improvements and be a part of this development, inshallah.
No, I'm good on that. And then finally, I guess, I'll direct this question to the two of you. What's the single one thing you'd want to see change? Just one thing, Marco, not you.
What I would love to see is, again, I think it all comes down to the networking side. I know there is a big trend going on now. AI, it's something that we are discussing almost every day. We as a data center provider are looking at infrastructure and liquid cooling, doing huge investment to support these type of opportunities. But there is no part of infrastructure that lands in our data center that doesn't require connectivity. Everything is related to connectivity, and what I hope is that we will be able to provide more flexible connectivity solutions to these type of businesses, that we don't slow them down, and that they will see MENA as a huge potential location where they can land these big infrastructure solutions in most likely the near future. So AI is coming, it's already here, but we need to support them on all the different layers of the technical stack.
I totally agree with Dennis. We all the ecosystem follow the fiber. So wherever there is a connectivity, the ecosystem will be fulfilled. So what I really looking forward for is to have a seamless connectivity between data center and IXP within the regions, and more strategic partnership between the ISPs as well.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your time. In the interest of moving this along, because we started late, I think I can wrap this up into basically three phrases. We want to see better interconnection, we want to see harmonized regulation. All of that will get us into lower costs, which is going to make us more competitive and grow us into the region. So thank you very much, my panelists. It was fascinating talking to you. I hope those of you that are here, that are going to be here for the week will make time to speak to them and get better perspectives on them, from them. So a round of applause, please, for the panelists.